Dr. Maya Angelou once said, "You may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated." From surviving sexual assault at the tender age of 6 and surviving 3 domestic violence relationships, and now in her 6th year of living as a multiple sclerosis warrior, please join us with best-selling author, business owner, and lady extraordinaire, Miss Tamara Charles. Part 2. Your first sexual abuse was at 6.
Yeah.
Okay. After that, how long was it until your second encounter with some type of abuse?
Well, my sexual assault was at the age of 6 years old, and my domestic violence relationship started when I was 14 years old, 13, 14 years old. I remember being a freshman in high school, and that was my children's. We ended up having twins together. And I remember it was like a group of my girls and his friends. We would just meet up after school and just hung out, and it was just like he just wanted me to himself. He didn't want me to socialize with anybody else. He didn't want me to be around his friends because he thought his friend would like me, whatever. So it was just like he wanted, he had me like isolated, like I couldn't just.
But at that time, you were not thinking that. You were thinking it's
no,
love, right?
He
loves me so much. He doesn't want to share me.
Even when he first, I remember we was at a park, and we went to a park after school. We were just all hanging, and his friend was talking to me. And after his friend had stepped away, I remember he pushed me against the fence, and I ended up fracturing my arm. And he hugged me, and I'm like, oh, I thought I was like love. I thought it was okay. I thought it was, I'm like, okay, he's hugging me. He's saying he loves me. He's sorry. That's love, but it wasn't. It was not.
So how did you get out as a teenager, your first encounter with domestic violence? How did you get out of that relationship?
I got out because when I was 19 years old, I ended up getting pregnant with his twins. I have twins with him. And he was still abusing me. And I was 4 months pregnant, and I remember he had dragged me from his mother's third floor home and dragged me by my hair, and I was screaming and crying, and he brought me outside, like trying to get me out his mother's house, like while I'm just like going through them steps, and all I can remember and think of, I'm gonna lose my child. And it took an elderly woman actually, who came outside while his friends and neighbors are watching him. Nobody
So
came.
there were people around that was seeing all of that happen.
Yeah. And I remember it was an elderly woman that came out with a broomstick and started to hit him so he can get off me. And during that time, he was like trying to kick me, and I remember being in a fetus position, so he wouldn't, hit my stomach. And so the ambulance came. He ended up getting arrested. I got to the hospital emergency room, and I remember they couldn't even hear the baby's heartbeat. It took a couple of specialists to come down, IV, to calm me down, to, try to hear the baby's heartbeat. And finally, like after hours, they were able to hear not just one heartbeat, but 2 heartbeats. That's when I found out I was having twins.
Twins. Oh my goodness. During the relationship time, did anyone know what you were going through? Did his parents, because you all were young enough, because I assume he's a teenager. He was a teenager as well.
Yeah.
So do the parents know what's going on? Your parents, your friends, who knew?
Everybody knew.
Okay.
His parents knew. His parents, they try to tell us, we need to go our separate ways. Even if we had children, still it wasn't healthy, for our kids. But we didn't listen.
Right.
I felt like, now that I'm pregnant, like I need my kid's father. Like we was planning on getting married, like,
right.
Raising in the Haitian community with both of my parents, married, for over 50 years now. I felt like, okay, that was my kid's father. I need to marry him. But part of me was like, marriage is not going to solve this. So I'm
Right.
glad I didn't go through the marriage.
Right. Right.
But
Okay. After that relationship ended, it took him doing that final step and you protecting your children, because you had twins. How long until you went into a next relationship?
maybe about 2 years after that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I had
So
yeah,
in
2
that
years.
in that moment in 2 years, did you think that you were okay, you were healed? Did you think, or were you still in a bad
I was
headspace?
still in I wasn't
Mhm.
even in the right stage of mind. I
Mhm.
was still in that
Looking.
bitter, looking for love.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, I have kids. I'm like, I always felt like I needed a man to survive.
Mm.
I needed a man. Like, if I, at one point in my life, if I didn't have a man, I didn't feel right about myself.
Mhm.
It was probably now that I'm in, my late 30s, like, I was single for 5 years, then I started to love myself all over again. Like,
Right.
I'm like, this is what I was dealing with. This is what I had went through. This is what
Mhm.
I had accepted. I'm like,
Right. Right.
we don't see that,
Right. Mhm.
But I believe that when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, I think that was my final, my final destination with accepting, any less than I deserved. I
Mm.
think God was just saying that, you know what, if MS is not gonna wake you up, I don't know what else is gonna wake you up.
Mhm.
And when I got diagnosed, only because I was blind for 4 months. That's how I ended up finding out I had multiple sclerosis. I woke up one Saturday and I couldn't see. It was pitch black in my right eye, and all I remember was I called my daughter. I screamed for my daughter's name, and she came to my room, and my abuser is sitting in that bed,
Mm.
right in that bed. Then the ambulance came, and they took me from one hospital, then they transferred me to another, a major hospital. And what made me realize that God was just sending me that signal, that wake up call, because I spent 2.5 weeks in the hospital, and that man didn't spend one night with me in the hospital.
Mhm.
So I said, God, like, this is a man that I protected from going to jail for
Mhm.
abusing me,
Mhm.
and here I am laying in a hospital bed, and all he can do is bring me a plate of food and stay for 45 minutes and bring his friend. I was like,
That's it.
that's it.
Mhm.
And I just never looked back. And I gave myself 5 years before I started to date again, because I was like, I'm always in a relationship.
Right.
So I said, I need my time.
Right. 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 Yeah, you had to find what you were looking for, but
Yeah.
not in the men that you
Yeah.
were coming in contact with, and you had to find that in your own. So you're at a stage now where you found that love, right? And that's where the book was birthed, and saying that you're still smiling, you're still
yeah.
here.
Like, I'm here.
You
It's
found
a
you
great
found
feeling.
who
I
Tamara is.
found who I am.
Yeah.
And sometimes we go through stuff, and I tell even my daughters, like, I have my twins who's 22 years old. I have she's 22, and then her brother is also 22, twins. And I wanted to be that role model for my children. I didn't want them to feel as though, like, this was normal for their mother to be getting abused, to be getting beat, or because I remember they used to hear my abuser hitting me, my head on the wall, like,
Right.
me yelling, me screaming for help. So I had to say, I don't want my daughters to grow up thinking it's okay for a man to beat you or to hurt you.
Or your
I don't
son.
want my son to be like,
It's okay.
it's normal,
Yeah.
because my mom
Stayed through it.
So I didn't want that for my children. I remember my relationship with my kids wasn't even great at the time, because I know they was like, why is she accepting this?
Right.
But once I left, our relationship is the best relationship ever. Like,
Right.
they talk to me about everything and anything, and
Yeah.
they see I'm at a stage in my life right now. I'm happy. I can't have a man come into my life where you think you're gonna
Disrupt.
disrupt my peace
Mm-hmm.
my happiness. Like, you're gonna come correct.
Right.
You're gonna
Right.
come with a person who has morals, values, who believe, okay, abusing women is not what it is
Right.
or what it should be.
Right.
So
I want to ask you, did you get any counseling throughout your life?
I did.
That period?
I've been through counseling where I would go, then I would stop, I would go, I would stop.
Did counseling help you getting therapy, getting that type of help from a third party? How do you feel about that?
It helped me, but for me, my personal experience, I think me writing my book, me writing it into
because that became a source.
This was my therapy.
Your therapy.
This was my therapy.
It was therapeutic.
Yeah.
To write it down.
Write it.
Okay.
That was my I'm not saying counseling and therapists didn't help me, but I was still lost going through it.
Right.
But that was my healing process, was for me to write my experience, because I was always that little girl who would write. So I love English classes. I would always just write. I felt like writing stories about my life because I had so much to say, so much to tell, so much to share. And I just did.
Well, we're glad you did.
Yeah.
I want to ask about your children. How many children do you have?
I have 4 children.
You have 4 children. And what are their ages?
My twins, they're 22 years old. They just graduated from college this past May. And I have a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old. Yeah.
Okay. What has been, from your experience, from them seeing you go, from them seeing their mother going through, do you see that there has been some type of damage done to their lives because of what you went through?
There was damage done. When I remember when they were in junior high school, and they were, they would go to school, act out, they wouldn't focus like they needed to be focused, stay in school. Their grades started to fail. And I didn't know, I didn't know that was affecting their school.
Right.
But then I remember overhearing my oldest one talking about what they heard me going through in the home. So that made me wake up and say, oh my God, like they're listening. They can hear me when I'm screaming in that room downstairs, So, and I remember my son had said something to me like, why I'm ruining his life because I'm letting a man beat me. And that was another wake-up call for me.
Right. So did you seek, did they get counseling?
Yeah, they went
to counseling, did therapy? Okay. All right. But now as young adults, or starting to be adults for your youngest one, where are they at the stage and looking at you, what you're doing and knowing the past? How are they looking at you now?
I'm like their biggest, they're like my biggest fan, and I'm their biggest fan. Like, they love their mama. Like, they're very proud of me for speaking. Thank you. They're very proud of me for speaking my truth, for being, the voice for the voiceless, because a lot of women, they stay in a unhealthy relationship because they don't have the resources. A lot of time it's about financial. How they're gonna, if they leave, who's gonna help? For me, it wasn't that much. For me, it wasn't financial. For me, it was just like I needed that security, that love. It was never about money, because I've always worked. I've always trying to, I made things happen for myself. But my kids, they're very proud of me today. Like, when they look at me, they and they see through all that I was able to finish colleges. I have my 4 college degrees. I never stopped because I've always loved school. That's one thing I can say. Even to this day, I love school. So them watching me coming home from working, then have to go to night classes, and coming home to cooking a home cooked meal, like, that's what mothers do.
Right. Do you have a fear that they, because of the experience that you've went through and they've seen you going through, that they might go through that same thing that you went through? They might go through some type of abuse. Do you have fear that they will have unhealthy relationships?
Um, at first I did. If you would have asked me that 5 years ago, I would have said yes. Um, but when I have I have different, women's events, I bring my daughter. I try to, like, there's the teen domestic violence,
Yeah.
things we have, like, I go to, I take her with me.
You expose her
I'm exposing her
to a lot of
to
the
a lot of things,
information that you were not exposed to as a teenager.
even though they don't like it.
Yeah.
Like, why do I have to go? Get
Yeah.
up, let's go.
Mommy said
I
so.
want them to, when they get there, they're like, I'm looking at them,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I know they're
Connecting.
Yeah. I pray every day that my daughters, or my son don't have to experience that.
Mm-hmm.
But the only thing I can do is continue to be that role model, let them know that it's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And just be there for them, and protect them, and just be that mother that I need to be, and so they don't have to go through what I had went through, thinking it's okay for a woman to get beat or a man to beat on a woman, and I just wanna.
So, my final question to you is: what's next for Tamara? What's next? Where do you see yourself going from here?
I'm gonna be one of the best empowerment motivational speaker. That's I wanna share my story to the world.
Mm-hmm.
I wanna empower other women, not just my children, but I want, because there's other women who are going through stuff, and when I go to speak at different engagement, like, at least one or two women always come up to me and tell me what they can connect with me.
Mm-hmm.
We cry together, we hold each other. That, to me, is all I need, just to know that I'm connecting with somebody else that's been going through what I had went through.
Yeah.
And I'm saving somebody else from not going through what I went through.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
but we have our 4th annual gala. I have a domestic violence fundraiser gala October 19th. It's going to be at the Dawn Event Center. We have Q Parker from the group 112, who is coming to support the cause. Roger Bond, he works with Diddy, the rapper, Diddy. So we have a lot of people coming, to support the cause, because domestic violence is real out there.
Mm-hmm.
People think it's okay, hush hush.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not no hush hush anymore, because we are losing our mothers, we are losing our sisters, we are losing our loved ones, and we just need to spread more awareness.
That's
and
right.
Even in the Haitian community, a lot of times, like, me growing up in the Haitian community, like with my family.
Yeah.
I've seen family go through it, but it was like a hush hush. No, we can't be hush hushing anymore, because this is real.
Yeah.
Like, we need to
And
get the help.
keeping quiet doesn't help anyone but the abuser.
Yeah.
That's something we stress in the organization, that when you're making it worse for the victims think by speaking up they're doing something wrong, that they're breaking up their family, because most of the time it's a family friend, it's an uncle, it's a brother, somebody, the perpetrator. In the domestic violence setting, that means it's someone that you're social with, that's someone in the home. And then so they're afraid to speak up because of the stigma that we in the community put. Let's just keep it, nobody needs to know, it's private business, and don't tell anybody, because everybody's going to talk about us. They're going to know that people did and do that, and they don't know that you, as the victim, they're hurting you more.
It was affecting me. I remember when I wrote my book, and when it came out, like, my mom, she didn't even read it yet, but she was telling her friends, my daughter wrote a book, but they didn't even read the book yet. She didn't even know what was going on with the book. And I remember one of my siblings was telling my mom, no, you can't, show it to your friends, why not? Why, this is my life, this is my story.
It happened.
It happened. why can't my mom's friends buy my book or read the book?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like little, it was like hush hush. Like,
Yeah.
if they go on Amazon, they're gonna see it.
Right.
They go to Barnes and Noble, they're gonna see it. So, but this was my healing. This is my healer right here. Like when I start,
and that's why I'm sorry. That's why abusers can go on and keep abusing, because we're hiding all their mess for them.
Yeah.
We're not speaking up. We're not saying this guy did this to me, or this guy did this to my daughter and to my children. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
And so that everybody in the community can know what type of person that person is.
Yeah.
But no, we're going back to somehow, I don't know where we learn it from, to keep these things secretive.
Yeah.
And it's affecting the home.
Yeah,
it's killing us. So I'm very proud to be in your company and to be one of the outspoken activists in the subject, bringing awareness of that. And when I saw that we were not, international, we're not the only people speaking about this thing in the community, that there were others and people are starting to speak up, it really made us feel like, you know what, the work that we're doing is not recognized. In vain. Yes, it's being recognized, because people are starting to not be afraid and not live in fear of what they know happened to them, and they are able to speak out now.